The Nosferatu joke has to be one of the most unexpected bait-and-switch pieces of humor in cartoon history. What makes the original Nosferatu joke so funny? And how have modern SpongeBob episodes so thoroughly missed the point in what made it work? Let's take a look at Nosferatu's hilarious first appearance, his not-so-great subsequent appearances, and ask ourselves when a joke goes too far. Chapter 1. The Ending of Graveyard Shift. Nosferatu first appears in SpongeBob for about 10 seconds at the very end of the Season 2 episode, Graveyard Shift. In the episode, greedy Mr. Krabs keeps the Krusty Krab open for 24 hours to appease a mob of background fish, meaning that SpongeBob and Squidward are now forced to work all night. Squidward, annoyed at SpongeBob's positivity towards this violation of their labor rights, decides to tell SpongeBob a scary story that involves a fictional slasher villain who attacks after 3 mysterious things happen. These 3 foreshadowed occurrences include the lights flickering on and off, the phone ringing with no one answering, and a bus appearing to drop off the marauder. Even though Squidward admits to making up the story, he and SpongeBob begin to fear that this hash-slinging slasher may actually exist, because the 3 mysterious circumstances Squidward made up actually start happening. At the end, it turns out there was no danger, and the hash-slinging slasher who got off the bus was just a nervous job applicant who called the Krusty Krab but anxiously hung up the phone. This explains 2 out of the 3 occurrences, but one mystery still remains. Who was flickering the lights? To which the 3 characters on screen look over to see a live-action, black-and-white 1920s vampire flicking a cartoonish light switch. Beyond it being unexpected, the Nosferatu joke also contributes to the overall story of the episode, since when the 3 occurrences happen, we as the audience expect them all to be related. However, only the phone and the bus are related. The lights were completely independent of those 2 occurrences. Now, why is it important for there to be one last mystery? Wouldn't the story still work if all the strange occurrences were linked to the job applicant? It would still work, yes, but it would not have the same impact. The lights flickering is an intentional misdirection on the part of the writers. If the only occurrences were ones linked to the job applicant, we as the audience may be able to logically infer that the bus passenger is probably the person who called, as those 2 situations could be linked. But flickering the lights? How would this bus passenger do that if they weren't at the Krusty Krab? With this question, we as the audience now do not have enough information to properly solve this mystery. And with the mystery sufficiently hidden in the shadows, our minds create something even scarier. And then the writers achieve something truly great. They reveal who was flickering the lights and make it satisfying to the audience by making it funny. We weren't expecting a live-action shot of a horror icon from the 1920s, and we definitely weren't expecting such a casual reaction. Nosferatu is also just obscure enough. If it had been Dracula or Frankenstein, it would have been too well known. This joke is still funny even if you have no idea who Nosferatu is. Since it's a black and white shot, we can assume it's some obscure old movie. Nosferatu's reveal is also a reinforcement of the theme of the episode, which is that there isn't anything scary about the night. This is definitely an episode made to teach kids not to be afraid of the dark, and shows that sometimes even things that seem scary can be nothing more than simple coincidences. Now, there's one more major element of Nosferatu that makes the joke work. It's brief. Nosferatu has less than 10 seconds of screen time, and since it's at the end of the episode, the story ends before we have enough time to really question why Nosferatu is there. If this joke were told 5 minutes into the episode rather than at the very end, we would have to face questions like, who is Nosferatu? How do SpongeBob and Squidward know him? Why is he at the Krusty Krab? These are questions that, if answered, rob the moment of being funny or impactful. In horror, it's often understood that the human imagination will create something scarier than any writer could possibly create themselves. This is why a lot of horror movies rely on mystery and leaving out key details to promote fear in their audience's minds. Comedy actually can follow the exact same principle. It's much funnier for our minds to fill in the blanks and go, Haha, some old-timey vampire is a Krusty Krab customer, I guess. Then for the episode to actually flesh that out. By leaving out details, the humor flourishes. Now, if only the modern SpongeBob writers understood that, because Nosferatu came back in SpongeBob many times. Quick interruption, then back to the video. If you like hearing me critique TV shows and films, maybe you'd like to hear my thoughts about video games. If that's also your thing, head on over to my other channel, The Game Cubicle. I just published a video on a ridiculous Game Boy Advance SpongeBob game, Super Sponge, and I think you would really enjoy it. Link in the description. Chapter 2. Somehow, Nosferatu returned. Nosferatu started appearing in SpongeBob episodes briefly before eventually getting his own focused episode. We'll get to that episode in a moment, but I already take issue with Nosferatu appearing at all ever again after Graveyard Shift. It's not so much that these uses of Nosferatu were poorly handled, but that Nosferatu fundamentally cannot fit in SpongeBob for any more than the allotted 10 seconds he appeared in Graveyard Shift. That didn't stop them from adding a bunch of cameos, and apparently he's even got a spot in Camp Coral as some character named Kid Feratu. And I'm sorry, I didn't watch any of Camp Coral with Kid Feratu in it. I guess I'm not doing my due diligence as a reviewer. I mean, maybe the Kid Feratu episodes are the funniest thing in the world, and I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the Kid Feratu episodes of Camp Coral. I'm not giving Kid Feratu a fair shake, I'm sorry. But beyond cameos, the writers of modern SpongeBob just couldn't help themselves, and they had to turn a 10-second throwaway joke into a whole episode. So let's take a look at Season 11's SquidFeratu. So the premise of this episode is that Squidward keeps getting Nosferatu's mail by mistake, so he and SpongeBob go to his castle to drop it off. Once at his castle, after a bunch of unnecessary annoying slapstick noises and a crowbarred-in reference to flickering lights, SpongeBob and Squidward stay the night and Nosferatu attacks them. SpongeBob and Squidward run away, and then when Nosferatu catches them, it's just like, he was just trying to return your mail, Squidward, you were never in any danger at all, which, like, he totally tried to bite them earlier, and why would he return the mail while they're going to bed? Like, couldn't he have done so at any point earlier? And then, to punctuate this unsatisfying narrative, the lights start flickering, to which they look at Nosferatu, who's like, I don't know, I didn't do it. And then they all look over and are like, it's the Phantom of the Opera, which completely misses the point of what made the original Nosferatu joke funny. In Graveyard Shift, the lights flickered a few minutes before Nosferatu was revealed to be the flickerer, and was presented to the audience with two other mysteries. This gave the audience a lot to think about before the final reveal completely subverted their expectations and earned their laughter. In SquidFeratu, the Phantom of the Opera starts flickering the lights right before they reveal him, which gives no time to set it up as a mystery, and the reveal isn't really too out there now. They're already in Nosferatu's castle. Something like the Phantom of the Opera isn't really that much of a stretch now. Whereas in Graveyard Shift, Nosferatu came out of absolutely nowhere. All that I felt when this episode referenced the flickering of the lights twice was, man, I really wish I was watching Graveyard Shift instead. It's like the show is saying, hey, remember this better episode? Don't you wish you were watching this funny, narratively satisfying episode instead of this garbage? Remember when Nosferatu flickered the lights? Wasn't that funny? We're doing that again. Aren't we accomplishing the same thing by doing it again? The other big issue with SquidFeratu and the other Nosferatu appearances in modern SpongeBob is that it makes Nosferatu exist within the SpongeBob universe too much. It just doesn't make sense that this non-fish vampire lives in the ocean and he has no prior reason to be there. But you may ask, can't the same be said for Nosferatu in Graveyard Shift? Doesn't it also not make sense for Nosferatu to be there too? To which I say, Yes, Nosferatu's presence makes no sense in both Graveyard Shift and in SquarePants. However, in Graveyard Shift, the nonsense is a strength, while in SquarePants, it's a weakness. In Graveyard Shift, I ask, what's this silent movie vampire guy doing in this ocean town full of fish? Whereas in SquarePants, I ask myself, what's this silent movie vampire guy doing in this ocean town full of fish? Why is one bad and one good? Brevity. Nosferatu isn't around in Graveyard Shift for long enough to question the logic of it. And the joke is so clearly trying to be illogical that its absurdity enhances the comedy. In SquarePants, Nosferatu gets so much screen time and so many name drops that you can't help but question his existence in this world. And since his existence in this world makes no sense, your sense of immersion is broken. So, with all this in mind, what should the SpongeBob writers have done with Nosferatu? Chapter 3. Let it rest. There's a trend I see a lot in storytelling, both new and old, that makes me think they should have just let it rest. In Graveyard Shift, Nosferatu was a fantastically executed joke and the cherry on top of a well-done episode. The team behind SpongeBob was certainly aware that this aspect of their creation really resonated with audiences. But there's something that they didn't understand or accept, and it was that this joke could only work once. It could only work here, in this moment, in this episode. The stars aligned, and Nosferatu appeared in the center, and you could never force this to happen again. You can crowbar Nosferatu or lights flickering into as many episodes as you like, but that's not what made Nosferatu funny or memorable. It was good storytelling and meticulous comedic timing that made Nosferatu work. And that was something that SquarePants absolutely lacked. Modern SpongeBob seems to be looking so deeply at its past and asking itself what made it work so well back then. And their conclusion is to fill modern episodes with references to old, while ignoring the actual writing elements that is the real reason those episodes are as iconic as they are. There's a practice I think that writers, especially writers who work with monolithic pre-established franchises, need to take. I call this practice, let it rest. Sometimes if something's popular, it just can't be replicated. Nosferatu happened. It was hilarious. It was a great ending to a great episode. But that episode is over. It's done. Move on. Let it rest. Hey, do you have any other examples in media where a writer should have let it rest? If you do, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And if you like this video, maybe you should check out this other video right here. Or if you want to see my critiques on some SpongeBob video games, check out this other video right here. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.